webinar, 5 quick ways to save hours every pay period. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. There's just a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin the presentation. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please either raise your hand so that we can unmute your line or submit them through the GoToWebinar question box. We will be answering questions throughout the presentation and will also be following up after the presentation to answer any additional questions you may have. As a reminder, our October promotion communication was all about how you can gain more hours in your week through increasing productivity in your workplace. We've included some add-on applications that we have found help our Dynamics GP clients achieve these results. You can visit the URL seen here for more information on those applications and their associated promotions. Today, we have invited Integrity Data to join us. They'll be shedding more light on how you can save more time every pay period, increase productivity and cost effectiveness of your Dynamics GP solution with payroll enhancements. So at this point, I'd like to transition the presentation over to Dan Doolin, who is the Senior Account Executive over at Integrity Data.
Wonderful, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join our webinar today. We realize that your time is valuable, and that's really kind of the point of our efforts here is to make sure that you can use that time wisely and be extremely productive in that time. As part of a series that we offer, taking Dynamics GP, payroll, and human resources from good to great, we want to spend some time today talking about 5 quick ways to save time every pay period. As was mentioned, my name is Dan Doolin from Integrity Data. I'm a Senior Account Executive here. I've been working with Integrity Data and Dynamics GP for almost 15 years, which does seem hard to believe because it really shouldn't be that old, but I guess we're getting there. And so in our webinar today, what we want to do is talk about those 5 quick ways to save time. And we're going to run through those pretty quickly. And first, before we do that, I do want to give you a little bit of background information about Integrity Data and who we are and what we do. We're going to talk about some pain points and some processes in Dynamics GP that are common through most customers that use payroll and human resources in Dynamics GP, and of course ways that those can be improved to enable you to save that time each pay period. And then of course we're going to give you some action items and some additional information where you can continue your research and continue to look for those ways and investigate those ways to save time. A little bit about Integrity Data. We've been a Microsoft Dynamics GP partner since 1996. We're located in Lincoln, Illinois, which is right in the center of the state of Illinois. We call it Central Illinois. It gets a lot of different names depending on the reference point. But we're not Southern Illinois. That's something we're a little bit sensitive about. But we've been providing enhancement solutions as products to Dynamics GP customers since late in the year 2000. It was something that I started when I got here. We provide not only those products, but we also provide development services and consulting services as well. Those consulting services typically are around payroll and human resources. We've done full payroll implementations. We do small implementation projects just around our products, and just a various scope of projects related to the consulting and implementation services. We're a Microsoft Dynamics Development Center, which simply means that we provide development services directly to Microsoft on the Dynamics GP product. So new features, adding additional capabilities, that kind of thing. We are the original authors of the core payroll extensions components in payroll, which includes the deductions and arrears capability, the payroll integration to payables capability, and the overtime rate calculation or blended rate calculation capability. Those are products of Integrity Data that are licensed through Microsoft and are included in the payroll product through an OEM agreement that we put together in 2007. As part of that, there's also some additional components called Advanced Payroll, Advanced Human Resources, the PTO Manager product, and also Benefit Self-Service for doing online benefit enrollment and offering that to your employees. So that's a little bit of our background and some of the additional products that we've provided in the past, and those are continued to be provided through Microsoft directly. Now, as we roll into some of the things and some of the areas where you can save time each pay period, these are our 5 most common areas that we run into with the customers that we work with. And we always start with some questions to ask to see if it's something that you're encountering or not. So, I always ask the question about time entry is do your employees always enter their time correctly 100% of the time? And of course the answer to that is no. And I always like to point out that I don't even do it correctly all the time. And so what that means is that at some point you have to go make adjustments and corrections for that. Maybe an employee recorded their time to the wrong pay code, they recorded their time to the wrong department or position. So what happens as a result of that is that cost gets allocated incorrectly when those transactions flow through to the general ledger. So if an employee recorded time against a specific department that he worked in, that department has been charged that extra time and that extra expense for the time that the employee recorded. So making those adjustments and corrections is very important. Now what happens a lot of time is that organizations will go ahead and make those changes just to the payroll side, or they won't make them at all because, well, maybe it doesn't matter, but maybe they'll use the manual check process to do so. And what we've determined as we put the product together a few years ago was that that's really about a 20-step process to do that. And we're all about saving time. That's what we're here for today. And so the picture on the screen is really a good example because there's a list of the steps that you would have to go through, or you could just add a minus sign to the payroll transaction. So to dive into that a little bit deeper, if you're dealing with those things, then our negative payroll transactions product would be a great tool to add to your suite of products to help save you that time. Because if you're doing multiple transactions multiple adjustments every pay period, then you start getting into some time that starts to get significant, versus being able just to enter that negative on that transaction and payroll transaction entry. So going through some of the bullet points here, it can be used to back out leave time. That's a very common use where somebody has misreported on their time card the vacation time, and being able to back that out or back out the regular hours and put in the vacation time. The negative transaction shows up on the earnings statement and the pay stub. So if even if the net result is the same for the wages, the employee still sees that correction was made, especially if it's related to their vacation time. Those updates obviously carry through to the GL. That's the primary purpose for doing those. And so what's nice about that is you're going to keep your financial information and your payroll data in sync so that they're telling the same story as you look at reports as far as cost. Obviously there's a complete audit trail for those transactions. And when you do make those adjustments to leave balances, no matter how you're tracking the time in Dynamics GP, as long as you're tracking it in Dynamics GP, it will, if you do a negative transaction for -8 hours for vacation time, for example, it will put those 8 hours back into the employee balance. And this is usable for most pay types. So it's a great tool. This is one of our 2 most popular products. So it's in the top 2. This is something that almost every payroll customer that I talk to has a need for, and a lot of them are using it. Just real quick, there's a screenshot here that just shows how easy it is. Just enter a negative on the transaction entry as you're putting in the hours, and it retains that, and of course carries that through the whole payroll process. Very simple, very, very easy to use, and it takes about 10 minutes to implement. Right, similar but a little bit different are negative deductions. So if you ever have a situation where, best example is the health insurance premium has been deducted, but the employee is terminated, so we need to refund part of that deduction back to them. Another common example is the employee was signed up for the wrong deduction code. Maybe they chose a wrong plan. Maybe they switched plans in the middle of the month, anything like that. And so we do need to give part of that deduction back to the employee. And again, this is something that can be done in Dynamics GP, but it's time consuming and it's very prone to errors. This is a little bit more complicated than even the negative payroll transactions and doing those. So we got a lot of requests for this, and so we made this into a product to take it from a 20-minute process to a 30-second process. So if you start doing the math, if you're doing, let's say, 4 or 5 of those per pay period, and you can save that much time, that's over an hour per pay period that you're getting back to in your day to do other more productive things. Or, start your Christmas shopping online or do something like that. But that's up to you. The point is that you have that time back to then use however you see fit. So let's take a look at this and how it functions. So negative deductions enhancement is the name of the product, and it saves time and streamlines the process by automating and creating the posting of the adjustments via manual check. So that's kind of a mouthful there, but essentially what you have to do when you are doing a negative deduction transaction is, number one, you have to get the money to the employee, and that's done through a pay code. The second thing that you have to do is that manual transaction to remove the history of that pay code, and then also to take the amount from the year-to-date deduction amount. So if you're giving the employee $10 back, you need to somehow associate a pay code, give the employee $10, remove that $10 from the pay code because you don't want it to show up as earnings in the long run, and then remove the $10 from the deduction code history. So there's a lot going on there, so it can get confusing, and what this product does is streamlines that process so that it's the pay code that you use to pay out to the employee is predetermined by you, so you map it, and that's usually done based on the taxing situation. So if it's a pre-tax deduction, you'd have it mapped to a taxable pay code. So what you do is then you simply go into payroll transaction entry, you put in the deduction, put in the amount that you need to give back, it automatically converts it over, it recognizes it and lets you do that in transaction entry as part of the product, automatically converts it to the correct pay code given the taxing situation, gives the employee their $10, and then all the other manual stuff behind the scenes happens automatically. So just by describing the process, it's a little bit confusing, and it's very prone to making mistakes. The second part of that is that it also takes that time to do those things and to create those transactions. So what we've done is we've automated that for you to reduce the amount of time it takes to do those. So the payroll staff can enter those deductions as they normally would as a negative on payroll transaction entry and let the system do the rest of the work for you. You can also another advantage is that you can do that negative deduction transaction as the only transaction for the employee in that check run. So they can just get a check for that $10 amount, which is something you cannot do through other processes in Dynamics GP. Okay, that's kind of I really should have a couple screenshots there, but I didn't include them. But that's one that's quite complicated. So if there's questions about that, please feel free to raise your hand or visit our site and our knowledge base on our website to get those questions answered. Now, the second or the other product in the top 2 most popular products has to do with dealing with the distribution of earning statements for employees that are on direct deposit. So employees are on direct deposit, and that's nice because you don't have to print a check for them, but you still do have to provide them with the earning statement. A lot of organizations are still printing, stuffing, and then distributing those earning statements by hand, and a lot of times they're doing that even by mailing the earning statement to the employee. So putting a stamp on it and then mailing it to the employee. When you start adding up the number of employees, especially if they're using stamps, and the number of per pay periods a year, the cost it can get astronomical pretty quickly. So talking to a customer, this has been a couple months ago now, but this happens relatively frequently, but they had 1,500 employees, and they're sending earning statements through the mail. They were spending almost $20,000 a year just to distribute earnings statements, and that really wasn't even including the cost of the paper. That was mostly postage and time. And it's hard to believe that somebody could really, they probably hadn't thought about it, could spend that much money, but they were. And so obviously there's a much better way to do that. So what they did was they implemented our employee email suite, which enables them to email those earnings statements directly from Dynamics GP. And so they spent, I think it's around $3,500. Let's just say it's $4,000. That's 1/5 of their annual cost for a product that they'll have for however many years they have Dynamics GP. So figure their return on their investment was a few weeks at that point to be able to do that. So that was saving a lot of time per pay period and saving a heck of a lot of money per pay period as well. So you can email those earnings statements and W-2s directly out of Dynamics GP. You can also email those earnings statements from a previous pay run. It's sent as a password-protected PDF attachment to the employee. So it's their password is typically the first 4 digits of their last 4 digits of their SSN or first 5 digits of their SSN. They can also have a unique password. And you can also attach other documents as well, whether it be a company-wide attachment to announce, the holiday party, or an employee-specific attachment to maybe provide them with a total compensation statement, something like that at the end of the calendar year. So we've got a lot of great customers that utilize this product that are saving tons of time and tons of money each pay period with this product. And you can see that it takes about, the rate at which it sends is about 7 to 8 earnings statements per minute. So if you have 250 employees, it's going to take 2.5 minutes to email those earnings statements, which is probably faster than it takes to even get the earnings statements printed, let alone put in an envelope and distributed. A couple of screenshots here related to emailing the earnings statements. Highlight your pay run, mark all the employees. It knows automatically which employees get those earnings statements emailed. You could still have a few that get printed, but what it does is it defaults to if the employee is active on direct deposit, obviously, and then they have an email address on the employee card in Dynamics GP, it will default to emailing those. So if you have 250 employees and they're all on direct deposit, but you have 20 that do not have an email address, when you get to the end of the payroll process, it will only print those 20 earnings statements. And then it will know, and this list will be the other 230 they get emailed. So you know that this is an accurate list. You don't have to pick through it. You don't have to remember who gets emailed, who gets printed. Just hit mark all and hit process, and you're on your way. So the employee gets their earnings statement along with any other company-wide or employee-specific attachments that go with it. And it's a password-protected PDF. So even if you if the employee gets email on their mobile device, it's not a device-specific app. It just comes in as an email. When they get their email and click on the attachment, then it will still prompt for the password. So employees can view their earnings statement on their mobile device and still have that security to go with it. Okay, another area where organizations can save a lot of time every pay period is the area of leave management. I was just talking to a customer, let's see, today's Tuesday, this last Thursday, and they have 130 employees, and they're still tracking all of their employee leave time in an Excel file, which they were happy because they had gotten to the point to where the Excel file was somewhat automated. But it still takes time. They still run into situations where employees always check 2 things on their paycheck or pay stub. 1 is their net pay, and 2 is how much vacation time do they have available, and make sure that those 2 items are correct. When they have questions, they want to feel confident in the answer. And this customer that I was talking to, when employees had questions, they had no way of going back and proving to the employer, demonstrating to the employee that the time available was the correct amount. So they spend a lot of time going through those calculations and those reconstructing that scenario. So, when those employees ask how much time they have left, if you're managing that time outside of Dynamics GP, then chances are it's taking you a significant amount of time, not only to accrue the time and keep track of it and enforce maximums and use it or lose it policies and things like that, but balances on the check stubs probably aren't correct, or employees aren't getting that information, so they're calling to ask. You need additional buckets to track. Questions come up from employees about why their balance is what it is. And then there's even situations where intermittent FMLA comes into play, which is a little bit separate situation, but if employees are taking that intermittent FMLA, small blocks of FMLA time, that's very difficult to track. And so we get into the situation where, one person can spend a significant amount of time just keeping track of paid time off, leave balances, maximums, whose anniversary is it, do they roll up to the next level, and so on. And so we do have a great tool called Comprehensive Leave Manager. Just a little bit about history. If we mentioned that we're the original authors of PTO Manager. Comprehensive Leave Manager is the much larger in size big brother of PTO Manager. So we took all the things that we learned from our experience with PTO Manager and with HR attendance and payroll accruals and things like that, and even things that all of those couldn't do, and put them all into one product. So this is really sort of the culmination of all of our 14 years experience in working with leave time. So you have an unlimited number of user-defined leave codes, so you can name them whatever you want. They can be accrual. They can calculate based on an accrual, a lump sum accrual, or even compensatory time or comp time, which is more popular in public sector type of organizations. You can accrue that time during payroll processing or at some other interval, such as monthly or annually is a popular one. One key point is you have detailed transaction history for each leave type, and we'll show you a screenshot of this. But it keeps all of that data so that you can easily answer that question of why is my balance only 8 hours of vacation time? You have all the history to show the employee. You can easily run reports to show leave time adjustments or anything that may have lost due to a maximum or a use it or lose it policy, which we call a carryover limit. And then there's also manager and employee self-service access to the leave data. So traditionally that's been delivered on Business Portal. Going forward, that will be delivered through through Dynamics GP windows that are made available to the employee through Web Client, which is a way that the rest of the self-service features will be delivered through Dynamics GP. If we look at some screenshots, we'll see the employee leave maintenance window. So all the things that you can maintain for the employee, what hours go into the accrual, do they have a recurring waiting period or a one-time waiting period, some of their current balance information, carryover options, which is a use it or lose it policy, even doing things like if they're over the carryover limit, it can transfer that time to a different leave code for use. Just all kinds of different things that you can do to manage that time. Set it up once, let the system take care of it, and let the system manage that time for you on a per pay period basis. Looking at the employee leave summary, just quickly get a glance at the leave codes that are assigned to the employee, how much they've earned, how much they've taken, any adjustments, and also the remaining balance. Any pending time that's there maybe while they're in that waiting period. Then here's that detailed transaction history. So start with the beginning balance, the accruals, an amount accrued, an amount taken. So all of this history is retained so that if the employee has a question, you can either show them this window, they can look it up through self-service, or you can print the report that will print all this out for you to then hand to the employee. In addition to that, if I go back just one screen here, there is a create a transaction capability, so any exceptions that you need to do. For example, the payout, if you need to do an employee payout, you can do that. Any adjustments, transferring time from one employee to another, if there's any kind of sick sharing program or anything, sick time sharing program, not that you want to share the sickness, but sharing time to those that are sick or may be sick for a long time, then you can certainly do that. So there's the idea is that you set it up to function on its own every pay period, and you're just processing payroll transaction. It's accruing and updating the balance and enforcing maximums. But in the event where you do have some of those exceptions, you can create those transactions on the side. Just a quick look at some of the self-service tools. This is in Business Portal, showing that detailed transaction history to the employee directly, as well as their available balance. And also vacation requests. They can request time off for any of their leave codes. In addition, you can also show the leave information on the employee pay stubs. So we mentioned this is information that they always want to look at on their pay stub. So we've got the code, how much they earned in the pay period, how much they've taken in the pay period, and then of course the remaining balance. So this is all instructions on how to configure your earnings statement are in the user guide. I believe it's on page 37 if I remember correctly, so that can easily be done. All right, that's a big one. Moving on to employee pay modeling questions, and this is coming up, of course, at year end as employees start thinking about their tax situation and doing their tax returns, and the refund's too big or they didn't get a refund, and they might want to make some changes to their tax settings or 401k, whatever the situation might be. So that's obviously going to generate some questions of, well, if I make this change, then what will my net pay be? Employees are going to have those questions, and so some payroll folks that I talk to either choose not to answer them because they take time, or they take the time because they want to help the employee and answer those questions, but it does take some time away from their usual tasks. So employees want to know how changes are going to affect their net pay, just because they're they're budgeting tightly and so on. What if they change withholding elections? And what's interesting again about this is that you can perform these calculations for the employee, but it entails going in and making the change to the employee record. So changing their, let's just say it's a tax allowance change, making that change, building a pay run, calculating checks, showing the employee the result, potentially going back and making another change and doing that process over again. And then remembering to remove the build and then set the values back to the original values. That, of course, takes time. And in some cases, stuff doesn't always get set back to what it was when they started. So what we've done is we've created a tool called Paycheck What If Calculator. Of course, what if I change this? What if I change that? How does that impact my net pay? So easily calculate those what if scenarios with no permanent data changes to remember to go back and fix. Excuse me. Now what's also nice about this is that it can also be used for gross up calculations. So what if I need to give the employee a paycheck or a bonus check of $100? What would their gross wages need to be to get that, to arrive at that net amount? It's very that's very time consuming. There's a little gross up tool in Dynamics GP, but you got to key everything in, so it really doesn't help much. This is employee specific, and you'll see it on the screen shot that we'll show here in just a minute. So here's the window. What you do is you, off the employee card or just pulling up the window, enter the employee ID. It pulls in all their primary information related to their pay. You simply make the change that you need to make and press calculate. Now if you want to do a gross up, what you do is put in the bonus pay code, put in the amount, click gross up, and hit calculate. And what it will do is show you the print check report with the gross wages being exactly what it would need to be to get that net amount. In Dynamics GP 2013, we added the capability for you to go ahead and add that calculation to a batch. So if the employee needed to be paid $250 in gross wages to get a $100 net check, you could add that to the batch and then pull that into your next pay run. Again, saving you time. There's also a mass gross up capability, so if you're giving out $100 bonuses to every employee, you can do that mass gross up calculation and then run that through the payroll. The Calculate Check report shows up, looks just like the Calculate Check report you would normally see. It's just for one employee. The nice part about this is if you get through this, the employee says, well, you know, let's do something different. Then you simply just go back, make changes, hit Calculate again, get the Calculate Check report again. So you can do that very quickly. It's not making permanent changes to the data. It's just using those assumptions, those payroll assumptions in this particular window. Very, very quick and very safe also. All right, those are the 5 quick ways to save time each payroll period. One quick bonus that we're going to throw in here, just as another example, is just setting up ways to be notified of certain things. So either a notification related to data or even a data change and approval process. Like seeing a quick way to see where employees are in their onboarding process, or a quick approval for leave time or pay changes or anything like that. And that can be done using our ULink workflow tool that we provide for Dynamics GP. As you can see, it goes throughout the entire Dynamics GP system: payroll and human resources, financials, security and controls, AP is a big one. There's also this build your own capability that enables you to build your own notifications and workflows. So it could be a notification that employees within 10 hours of achieving their maximum of their vacation time could send the employee and their manager an automated email saying, hey, just want to let you know your maximum is 200 hours and right now you're at 190. So you should probably take some time off, otherwise you're going to stop accruing automatically, just as an example. Okay, so in addition to that, once we get to action items, we try to make our website as user-centric as possible. So we have webinars there. We have videos of our products. We have case studies. You can check the cost of your current process. I mentioned the one customer that had was mailing their direct deposit earnings statements, spending $18,000 to $20,000 per year. They were able to go through a value calculation tool on our website to do that math and make that determination. And check to make sure that if there's a product that you're interested in, that it makes good business sense. And if it's something that will really help you throughout the day in every pay period, then that's a tool that you can utilize from our site that will help you get approval for that new product by saying, Mr. CFO or Mr. Controller, right now we're spending $5,000 a year to do this, and we can get it. So over 5 years, that's going to be $25,000, or we can get a product for $2,000 or $2,500, and that cost is over 5 years is probably somewhere around $4,000 to $5,000 total, or somewhere around in there, versus $25,000. Helps you perform that math, ask the right questions, so that you can make a good business decision about software that you would like to implement. All of our product downloads and documentation are on our website as well, and we've added a knowledge base also, which helps get quick answers to questions that come up a lot. We were talking in a company meeting yesterday about how we've had, I think we put our knowledge base up in May or June, and we've had somewhere around 500 unique visits to our knowledge base site. I know at least 10 of them have been me trying to find answers to questions that I didn't know the answers to, but our customers and our partners are able to get quick answers also. That saves having to call into support and to do that, which takes time and so on. So the knowledge base is a great tool. Feel free to follow Integrity Data on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. What we're doing now is a lot of creating videos and quick videos around some of our products. So we're always trying to get some information out, and we also do a lot of tweeting from payroll-specific scenarios that are coming up. I know I did something yesterday about, or a couple days ago, about some new rules in California about leave time for municipally mandated leave time, and just trying to keep up on what's going on, Affordable Care Act, all those things which are impacting all of our lives on a daily basis and are going to cost us time each pay period, and things that come up each pay period, trying to get that information out there. And of course, we're always looking for ways to streamline those processes in Dynamics GP. Well, here's a slide that's completely out of place. These are some of our ULink workflow scenarios that should have been up a couple slots there. So these are some examples of workflows that we've already built. This is a partial list of about 110 workflows that are available on for Dynamics GP. Payroll and HR solutions, we went through those 5 and then talked a little bit about ULink. We have some other ones that are out there. Our mid-pay period rate change product just enforces the effective date on a pay change. Overtime hours rules helps calculate the number of hours of overtime that an employee has worked, either by a daily rule, a weekly rule, or a per pay period rule, or a combination thereof. Enhanced retirement plans is one that we sell quite a few of that helps with tiered matching situations. Also helps with enforcing or applying the over 50 catch-up, and then also enforcing a combined contribution limit. So if you have a standard retirement plan like a 401k or a 457, and then also a Roth version of those, which takes after-tax contributions, the contribution limit's still the same. Unfortunately, Dynamics GP doesn't enforce that limit across multiple plans. It just does it on a single plan. And so that product lets you put those plans in a group and enforce a limit for all the plans combined in that group. Life insurance tax calculator. If you're providing life insurance to the employees in excess of $50,000 of coverage, then and you're paying the premium, then there's imputed income there that does need to be, part of that needs to be taxed. This is a big one when you get into the end of the year and talking and make sure that that benefit cost that you're providing to the employee is correct. A lot of organizations are trying to figure this out at the end of the year to get the W-2 correct, whereas this product will keep track of that and tax it automatically throughout the year, and then it's something that you don't have to worry about at the end of the year. Employee accounts and splits. I would say this is a fun product, and that's a complete joke, because what this does is it gets into those situations where you've got to distribute costs a little bit differently for employees, either splitting costs across multiple departments or positions, pay codes, just specific general ledger account numbers, jail account numbers. This is all the posting exceptions that need to get handled, and so the employee accounts and splits product is built for that. And it does get a little bit messy at times when you get into those details. A lot of organizations will use allocation accounts. And I'll go back to a statement I made earlier about keeping financial data and payroll data in sync and telling the same story. Well, if you have an employee that is assigned to one department and all their costs or all their hours from a payroll perspective go to that department, and then you're making allocations to different departments and different GL accounts on the financial side, then those two reports aren't telling the same story. We would much rather split it on the payroll side so that when it posts correctly. So you have those hours going to multiple departments, and then the payroll cost and benefit costs and all those things going to those multiple departments as well. That way, all your data is telling the same story at that point. So that's employee accounts and splits. All right, that's the end of the slide deck, which is also the end of the presentation. Want to take the time to say thanks and also open it up for any questions. We have some of all of those pictures that you saw throughout the slide deck were team members of Integrity Data. We have a team of about 20, and so just want to make sure I got the arrow pointing to myself there so you can put a face to the voice. But There's also my contact information. Feel free to ask any questions at any time by taking my contact information. If interested in the Twitter situation, it's just at Dan Doolin, so you'll get some Dynamics GP stuff, some payroll stuff, and some other stuff mixed in with it along the way. So, but feel free to follow me there. At this time, any questions that have popped up on the question board?